If you enjoy stories about justice, protecting family legacies, and standing up to greed, please hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and comment your thoughts below. Your support means everything. I'm 57 years old, and I'll never forget the moment my daughter's ex-boyfriend approached me at her funeral. I was standing beside Elena's casket, tears streaming down my face, when Marcus Sullivan pushed through the mourners and grabbed my arm. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low and urgent. "About the money." I stared at him, too shocked and grief-stricken to respond. My daughter had died 3 days ago in a car accident. She was 32 years old, brilliant, successful, and gone forever. And this man was talking about money at her funeral. "Not now," I managed to say, pulling my arm away. "Yes, now," Marcus insisted. "Elena left you $80 million. I have a claim to half of it. We need to settle this before her estate goes through probate." 80 million. The number echoed in my head. Yes, Elena had been successful. She'd built a tech startup that sold for a fortune. But I'd been too devastated by her death to even think about inheritance. "Get away from me," I said quietly. "This is my daughter's funeral. Have some respect." Marcus's expression hardened. "I loved her too, Richard. And she owed me. I helped build that company. I deserve compensation." Before I could respond, my son-in-law, Elena's husband of 5 years, stepped between us. "Marcus, leave," David said firmly. "You're not welcome here." "I have every right to be here," Marcus shot back. "Elena and I were together for 7 years. Longer than you knew her." "You were together 7 years ago," David corrected. "Then you cheated on her and she left you. You don't get to show up now demanding money." People were staring now. The funeral home director approached, concerned about the disturbance. I felt my late wife Sarah's sister touch my shoulder supportively. "Gentlemen, please," the director said quietly. "This isn't appropriate. Mr. Sullivan, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Marcus looked at me one more time. "You'll be hearing from my lawyers, Richard. That money should be mine. Elena wouldn't want you to have it." He left, and I stood there trembling with rage and grief. My daughter was being laid to rest, and her ex-boyfriend was already trying to steal her legacy. "Who was that?" my sister-in-law Julie asked. "A mistake Elena made 10 years ago," I replied. "Someone she was smart enough to leave behind." The funeral continued, but Marcus's appearance had poisoned the atmosphere. People whispered. David looked furious, and I felt violated, like Marcus had desecrated Elena's memory by bringing up money before we'd even buried her. After the service, David pulled me aside. "Richard, I need to warn you. Marcus has been threatening legal action since Elena died. He claims they had a verbal agreement that he'd get half her assets if her company succeeded." "That's ridiculous," I said. "Elena left him years before she even started her company. He had nothing to do with her success." "I know that. You know that. But Marcus is claiming otherwise. And he's hired an aggressive lawyer." I felt exhausted. Burying my only child was the hardest thing I'd ever done. My wife, Sarah, had died of cancer 5 years ago. Elena was all I had left. And now, even in death, someone was trying to use her for money. What should I do? I asked David. "Get a lawyer. A good one. Marcus is serious about this. He's filed a formal claim against Elena's estate." The next day, I met with Elena's estate attorney, Catherine Wright. She'd helped Elena structure her finances after the company's sale. Catherine was in her 50s, sharp and professional. "Mr. Grayson, I'm so sorry for your loss," she began. Elena was an extraordinary woman. I was honored to know her. "Thank you," I said. "I'm here about Marcus Sullivan. He's claiming he has rights to Elena's estate." Catherine's expression darkened. "Yes, he filed a claim yesterday. He's alleging that he and Elena had an oral agreement that if her business succeeded, he'd receive 50% of the profits." "That's a lie. Elena broke up with Marcus 10 years ago. She hadn't spoken to him since." "I believe you. But Marcus's lawyer is arguing that the agreement predated the breakup, that Elena started planning her company while they were still together, and Marcus contributed ideas and support. Can he actually win this?" I asked. "Oral contracts are hard to prove. Catherine explained. But they're not impossible. If Marcus can provide any evidence, emails, texts, witnesses who heard Elena promise him money, he might have a case. Courts sometimes recognize verbal agreements, especially in business partnerships. My head was spinning. Elena never mentioned any agreement like that. She was meticulous about business. She would have documented something that significant. Exactly. Which is why I think Marcus is lying. But we need to prove it. I'll need access to all of Elena's old communications. Emails, text messages, anything from the time she was dating Marcus. I'll get David to help. He has Elena's laptop and phone. Over the next week, David and I went through years of Elena's digital records. It was painful, reading her messages, seeing photos from happier times. But it was necessary. We found no evidence of any agreement with Marcus. In fact, we found the opposite. Emails from Elena to friends describing Marcus as controlling and financially irresponsible. Text messages planning her exit from their relationship. Journal entries about how relieved she felt after leaving him. This is good, Catherine said when I showed her the evidence. It shows Elena didn't trust Marcus with money or business. It contradicts his claim that she promised him half her future earnings. So we can dismiss his claim? Not yet. Marcus's lawyer will argue these messages prove nothing about earlier agreements. We need more. We need to prove Marcus is lying about his contributions to Elena's company. I hired a private investigator named Vincent Torres. He'd come highly recommended for corporate investigations. I met him at a coffee shop downtown. Mr. Grayson, what exactly do you need? Vincent asked. My daughter's ex-boyfriend is claiming he helped build her company and deserves $80 million. I need proof that he's lying. What company are we talking about? Dataflow Solutions. Elena founded it 8 years ago. Sold it last year for $160 million. Vincent whistled. That's substantial. And the ex-boyfriend is claiming what specifically? That he provided the initial ideas, that he supported Elena financially while she developed the business, that they had an agreement to split profits. Was he involved at all? No. Elena started Dataflow 3 years after she left him. They had zero contact during that time. Vincent made notes. I'll need timelines, documentation of when the relationship ended, when the company started, financial records showing who invested in the startup. If this guy had no contact with your daughter and no financial stake, we can prove his claim is fraudulent. Over the next 2 weeks, Vincent compiled a comprehensive report. Marcus's story fell apart under scrutiny. Timeline. Elena and Marcus broke up in March 2013. Elena started Dataflow Solutions in August 2016. 3.5 years of zero contact. No emails, no calls, no messages between them during that entire period. Financial records. Elena self-funded Dataflow's initial development with $50,000 from her own savings. Later, she secured venture capital from legitimate investors. Marcus's name appeared nowhere in any financial documents. Witnesses. Vincent interviewed Elena's early employees, her business partners, her investors. None of them had ever heard Elena mention Marcus. None of them knew he existed until he showed up after her death, claiming rights to her fortune. This is open and shut, Vincent told me. Marcus Sullivan had zero involvement in Dataflow. He's attempting fraud. With this evidence, the court will dismiss his claim. But Marcus wasn't backing down. His lawyer, a man named Preston Webb, filed an amended complaint adding new allegations. Now Marcus claimed Elena had stolen his business ideas. That Dataflow was based on concepts he developed. This is getting uglier, Catherine warned. Preston Webb is known for aggressive tactics. He's probably hoping you'll settle just to avoid a prolonged legal battle. I won't give him a penny, I said firmly. Elena worked too hard for her success. I won't let this parasite profit from her death. Then we prepare for trial. It'll be expensive and emotionally draining. Are you ready for that? I thought about Elena, her intelligence, her determination, her integrity. She built something extraordinary through her own effort. I couldn't let Marcus destroy her legacy with lies. I'm ready, I confirmed. The legal battle consumed the next 4 months. depositions, document reviews, expert testimony about the origins of Dataflow's technology. Marcus claimed he discussed data management systems with Elena during their relationship. Catherine proved that Elena had written academic papers on similar topics years before she met Marcus. Marcus claimed he'd financially supported Elena while she planned her business. Bank records showed Elena had actually paid most of their shared expenses when they dated. Marcus had been chronically unemployed. Marcus claimed witnesses would verify his contributions. Vincent found those witnesses were Marcus's friends who'd never met Elena and were lying for money Marcus had promised them. Every claim Marcus made, we demolished with evidence. But Preston Webb kept filing motions, demanding more discovery, stalling the process. He was bleeding me financially. Legal fees were approaching $200,000. This is his strategy, Catherine explained. Drag it out until you're tired and broke, then pressure you to settle. Don't give in. David helped pay some legal costs. Elena would want us to fight this, he said. Marcus treated her terribly when they dated. She told me stories about his jealousy, his attempts to control her career. He's showing the same behavior now, trying to take credit for her accomplishments. Tell me about their relationship, I asked. I'd met Marcus only briefly back then. Elena had kept him distant from family, which should have been a red flag. David sighed. Marcus was smart but lazy. He had ideas but no follow-through. He resented Elena's ambition. When she got a job opportunity in another city, he demanded she turn it down. She refused. He accused her of choosing her career over their relationship. Good for her for leaving him. The breakup was ugly. Marcus told her she'd never succeed without him, that she was nothing special. Elena proved him wrong, and he's been bitter ever since. How do you know that? Because he contacted Elena 2 years ago, after Dataflow started getting press attention. Suddenly wanted to reconnect. Elena refused to even respond. Do you have proof of that contact? David nodded. Email from Marcus. Elena forwarded it to me, laughing about his transparent attempt to get back in her life once she was successful. Can I see it? David pulled it up on his phone. There was Marcus's email from 2 years ago. Elena, I saw the article about your company. Congratulations. I always knew you'd do great things. I'd love to catch up over coffee. I'm in the city next week. Elena's response, forwarded to David. Can you believe this? The man who told me I'd never amount to anything suddenly wants to catch up now that I'm worth something. Pathetic. This is perfect, I said. It shows Marcus had no relationship with Elena, that she wanted nothing to do with him, and that his current claims are motivated by greed, not legitimate business partnership. I gave the email to Catherine. She immediately filed it as evidence. This contradicts Marcus's entire narrative. He can't claim they had an ongoing business relationship when she refused to even have coffee with him. Marcus's case was crumbling, but he still had one card to play: public sympathy. Preston Webb arranged a media interview. Marcus appeared on local news, cry about how Elena had used and discarded him. I loved her, Marcus said on camera. I supported her dreams when no one else believed in her. We built that business concept together, late nights at my apartment, planning the future. Then she became successful and cut me out completely. Now her father is trying to steal what's rightfully mine. The interview made me look like a greedy father taking advantage of my daughter's ex-boyfriend. Public opinion started shifting toward Marcus. We need to respond, Catherine said. We can't let this narrative stand. I gave my own interview. Local news, same station. I brought evidence. The timeline showing Elena and Marcus had been broken up for years before Dataflow started. The financial records proving Marcus had never invested in the company. Testimonies from Elena's colleagues who'd never heard of Marcus until his claim. Marcus Sullivan is lying. I said clearly on camera. He had no involvement in my daughter's company. He's exploiting her death to steal money he didn't earn. Elena worked incredibly hard for her success. She overcame significant obstacles, including a toxic relationship with Marcus, that she was strong enough to leave. I won't let him rewrite history and profit from lies. I showed the email where Marcus tried to reconnect after seeing Elena's success. This proves Marcus's motivation. When Elena was struggling, he wasn't there. When she succeeded, suddenly he wanted to catch up. And when she died, he appeared at her funeral demanding money. That's not love. That's greed. The interview turned public opinion back in my favor. People started questioning Marcus's story. Comments flooded social media. If he cared about her, why wait until she died to claim money? This guy is a con artist. Elena's father is protecting her legacy. Good for him. Marcus responded with another interview, this time more aggressive. Richard Grayson is a bitter old man who never approved of me. He's poisoned people against me. Elena loved me, and she would want me to have that money. Elena left everything to her husband and father. I responded in a written statement. If she'd wanted Marcus to have anything, she would have included him in her will. She didn't, because he meant nothing to her. He needs to accept that and move on. The trial date was set for 6 months after Elena's death. Catherine spent weeks preparing. We had witnesses, documents, timelines, expert testimony. Everything needed to prove Marcus was lying. The night before the trial, David came to my house. Richard, I need to tell you something about Elena. What is it? She knew Marcus might try something like this. About a year ago, she told me, if anything ever happens to me, Marcus will probably crawl out of the woodwork looking for money. Don't give him anything. He doesn't deserve it. Did she put that in writing? She recorded a video. For me, in case she died unexpectedly. I just discovered it on her cloud storage. She talked about Marcus, about her fears that he'd try to claim credit for her work. Can we use that in court? David showed me the video. Elena, looking directly at the camera. David, if you're watching this, something's happened to me. I need you to know Marcus Sullivan had nothing to do with my success. Nothing. I know he'll probably try to claim otherwise. He's that kind of person. But it's not true. Data flow was my idea, my work, my investment. Marcus didn't contribute a single thing. Don't let him rewrite history. Please. I cried watching that video. My daughter, planning for her own death, protecting her legacy. She'd known Marcus's character perfectly. We showed this to Catherine immediately. I said, this is Elena's own testimony about Marcus's lack of involvement. Catherine was thrilled. A testamentary video from the decedent herself? This could be inadmissible under some circumstances. But given that Marcus is claiming a business relationship, Elena's direct statement about his non-involvement is highly relevant. I'll file a motion to include it. The trial began on a cold Monday morning. The courtroom was packed. Media, curious onlookers, friends of Elena's who wanted to see justice. Marcus sat with Preston Webb, looking confident. I sat with Catherine and David, nervous but determined. Preston Webb opened with an emotional appeal. Your Honor, Marcus Sullivan and Elena Grayson were partners in every sense. They shared dreams, plans, and a future. Elena's sudden success was built on foundations they laid together. Marcus isn't asking for charity. He's asking for what he earned. Catherine countered with facts. Your Honor, the evidence will show that Marcus Sullivan had zero involvement in data flow solutions. Elena founded it years after their relationship ended. Mr. Sullivan never invested money, never contributed work, never had any business relationship with Elena. His claim is based entirely on lies, and we will prove it. Preston called Marcus to testify first. Marcus took the stand, dabbing his eyes with a tissue, playing the heartbroken ex-boyfriend. Tell us about your relationship with Elena. Preston said gently. We were in love, Marcus said. 7 years together. We talked about everything, including her dream of starting a tech company. I encouraged her. I helped her brainstorm ideas. The core concept of data flow came from conversations we had. Did Elena promise you compensation if the company succeeded? Yes, she said, we'd be partners. 50-50. She said she couldn't do it without my support. It was all lies. Catherine would dismantle it on cross-examination. Mr. Sullivan, Catherine began, standing with a stack of documents. You claim you and Elena discussed data flow during your relationship. When exactly did that relationship end? March 2013, Marcus admitted. And when did Elena found Data Flow Solutions? I'm not sure exactly. August 2016, 3.5 years after you broke up. Let me ask you, how many times did you speak to Elena between March 2013 and her death in 2023? Marcus hesitated. We stayed in touch. Really? Can you provide any evidence of that contact? Emails? Text messages? Phone records? We talked in person mostly. Where? When? Can anyone verify these conversations? Marcus fumbled. It was private. Mr. Sullivan, we've subpoenaed phone records, email accounts, and social media. There's no evidence you contacted Elena at all between 2013 and 2021. In fact, the only contact was an email you sent in 2021 asking to catch up. Elena never responded. Isn't that correct? She didn't respond to that specific email because she wanted nothing to do with you, correct? Objection, Preston interrupted. Speculation. Sustained, the judge said. Catherine switched tactics. Mr. Sullivan, you claim you contributed ideas to data flow. Can you describe the technology behind Elena's company? Marcus looked lost. It was data management systems. Can you be more specific? What kind of data? What management techniques? Technical details were in my area. Elena handled that. So you contributed ideas but can't describe those ideas? I contributed the concept. Elena developed the details. Catherine pulled out Elena's academic papers from college, years before she met Marcus. Papers describing data flow optimization techniques nearly identical to what data flow eventually implemented. Mr. Sullivan, these papers were written in 2010. You didn't meet Elena until 2011. How did you contribute ideas to concepts Elena had already developed before knowing you existed? Marcus had no answer. The courtroom watched him squirm. Catherine continued demolishing Marcus's testimony. Financial records proving he'd never invested in data flow. Witness statements from Elena's early employees saying they'd never heard of Marcus. The timeline showing years of zero contact. Mr. Sullivan, is it true that you're simply trying to exploit Elena's death to steal money you didn't earn? No. I loved her. You deserve nothing, Catherine interrupted. Elena owed you nothing. You weren't married. You weren't business partners. You were an ex-boyfriend she deliberately cut out of her life. This lawsuit is based on greed, not justice. Preston tried to rehabilitate Marcus on redirect, but the damage was done. Marcus's credibility was shredded. Then Catherine played Elena's video. The courtroom fell silent as my daughter's voice filled the room. Marcus Sullivan had nothing to do with my success. Nothing. Marcus went pale watching his ex-girlfriend contradict his entire case from beyond the grave. Several jurors were visibly moved. Preston called character witnesses. Marcus's friends who claimed to remember conversations where Elena promised Marcus money. Catherine destroyed them on cross-examination, proving they'd never met Elena and showing bank records where Marcus had paid them to testify. So Mr. Sullivan paid you $5,000 to lie in court? He said it was for expenses. Expenses for committing perjury? The witness crumbled. 2 others admitted similar payments. Marcus's case was falling apart completely. David testified about Elena's relationship with Marcus. She described him as controlling and jealous. When she succeeded, she was relieved he wasn't part of her life. She specifically told me that Marcus had contributed nothing to her company. I testified last. Elena worked incredibly hard for everything she achieved. She was brilliant, determined, and honest. Marcus represents everything she rejected: laziness, entitlement, dishonesty. She would be horrified to see him trying to profit from her death. Preston's closing argument was desperate. Members of the jury, love isn't always documented in emails and contracts. Marcus Sullivan loved Elena Grayson. He supported her dreams, even if he couldn't prove it with paperwork. Oral agreements are valid. Elena promised him compensation. Honor that promise. Catherine's closing was devastating. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about greed masquerading as love. Marcus Sullivan had no relationship with Elena for the last 10 years of her life. He never invested in her company. He never worked for a company. He contributed nothing. The only evidence he has are lies. Lies he's telling. Lies he's paid others to tell. Elena's own words in that video tell you the truth. Marcus deserves nothing. Don't reward his fraud. Protect Elena's legacy. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. We waited in a conference room, David pacing, me staring at photos of Elena on my phone. Finally, the bailiff called us back. The jury had reached a verdict. The foreman stood. In the matter of Marcus Sullivan versus the estate of Elena Grayson, we find in favor of the defendant. Mr. Sullivan's claim is dismissed with prejudice. Relief flooded through me. David hugged me. Catherine smiled with satisfaction. Marcus looked devastated. Preston Webb gathered his papers quickly, avoiding eye contact. Mr. Sullivan, the judge added, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney for investigation of perjury and witness tampering. Your testimony and the testimony of your paid witnesses may constitute criminal fraud. Marcus's face went white. He not only lost a lawsuit, he was now facing criminal charges. Outside the courtroom, media surrounded us. I gave a brief statement. Justice was served today. My daughter's legacy is protected. Marcus Sullivan's lies have been exposed. Elena can rest in peace knowing her life's work won't be stolen by someone who contributed nothing. Weeks later, Marcus was indeed charged with perjury and witness tampering. Preston Webb was also investigated by the State Bar for ethical violations in pursuing a frivolous lawsuit. Marcus eventually pleaded guilty to reduced charges, paid a fine, got probation, and was ordered to pay my legal fees. $230,000 he probably didn't have. He'll likely declare bankruptcy, Catherine told me. You probably won't see that money. But at least he won't profit from his lies. I didn't care about the money. I cared about protecting Elena's memory. And we'd done that. With the lawsuit settled, I could finally focus on what Elena had actually left behind, not just money, but a legacy of innovation and determination. The $80 million Elena left me and David was split between us and her favorite charities. $10 million went to scholarships for women in technology. $10 million funded cancer research in memory of my late wife, Sarah. $10 million went to causes Elena had supported while alive. David and I each kept $25 million. More money than we needed, but money that represented Elena's incredible achievement. What are you going to do with your share? David asked me one day. I'm starting a foundation, I said. The Elena Grayson Innovation Fund. Supporting young entrepreneurs with great ideas, but limited resources. The kind of support Elena never got from Marcus. Real support, not empty promises. David loved the idea. She'd be proud of that. I hired staff to run the foundation. We awarded our first grant 6 months after Elena's death. 10 entrepreneurs, $10,000 each, plus mentorship and business development support. One recipient was a young woman named Lisa, who reminded me of Elena, brilliant, driven, struggling to get her tech startup funded because investors doubted her. Mr. Grayson, this grant changes everything, Lisa told me through tears. I can quit my day job and work on my company full time. I can hire a developer. I can actually make this happen. That's exactly what Elena would want, I replied. She believed in lifting others up, proving that success comes from hard work and merit, not from who you know or how well you manipulate people. The foundation grew. By the second year, we'd helped 50 entrepreneurs. By the third year, 100. Some failed. That's the nature of startups. But several succeeded spectacularly. One company that received early funding from us eventually sold for $30 million. The founder gave half the proceeds back to the foundation. Elena's legacy is funding other Elenas, David observed. It's beautiful. Marcus tried contacting me once more about a year after the trial. A letter arrived at my house, handwritten, apologetic. Richard, I know you have no reason to forgive me. I was wrong about everything. The lawsuit was a mistake. I was desperate and made terrible choices. I'm not asking for money. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. Marcus. I showed the letter to Catherine. What do you think? Is he sincere? Probably not, she said cynically. More likely he's trying to lay groundwork for another attempt later. or he wants you to drop the feed judgment against him. I never responded to the letter. Marcus had caused enough damage. He didn't deserve any more of my time or energy. 3 years after Elena's death, the Elena Grayson Innovation Fund had assets of $40 million. Between investment growth and additional donations from people inspired by Elena's story, we'd grown beyond my initial $25 million contribution. We'd helped 200 entrepreneurs. 15 had built companies worth over $1 million. 3 had gone public. Hundreds of jobs have been created from businesses we'd supported. Elena's impact keeps multiplying. David said at our annual gala, "She changed the world once with data flow. Now she's changing it again through all these entrepreneurs." I thought about that often. Elena's direct contributions, her company, her innovations, her work, were significant, but her indirect contributions through the foundation might ultimately be larger. Every person we helped, every company we funded, every job created, that was Elena's legacy continuing to grow. I visited Elena's grave every Sunday, brought fresh flowers, talked to her about the foundation, about the people we were helping. "You be proud, sweetheart," I told her headstone. "We're doing good work in your name." And Marcus? He's gone. Forgotten. Irrelevant. Just like you always knew he would be. I thought about Marcus sometimes, wondering what had become of him. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd moved to another state, still struggling financially, still bitter about life not giving him what he felt he deserved. He'd learned nothing from the experience, still blamed others for his failures, still thought he deserved success without earning it. Meanwhile, the entrepreneurs we funded were learning the opposite lesson. That success comes from hard work, that achievement requires effort, that entitlement gets you nowhere. David remarried 4 years after Elena's death. A kind woman named Michelle, who understood he'd always love Elena, but had room in his heart for new love too. "Elena would want you to be happy," I told him at the wedding. "She'd hate seeing you alone." I know. Michelle reminded me of Elena in some ways, strong, smart, independent, but she's her own person. I'm not trying to replace Elena, just building a new life while honoring the old one. That's what I was doing too. My life now revolved around a foundation, around helping others, around ensuring Elena's memory lived through positive impact, rather than the ugliness Marcus had tried to create. I was approached by a filmmaker wanting to make a documentary about Elena. Her story is inspiring. Young woman overcomes obstacles, builds billion-dollar company, leaves legacy that helps hundreds of others. People need to hear it. I agreed with conditions. You tell the truth about Marcus, about how he tried to steal her legacy, about how greed and entitlement tried to corrupt her memory. People need to understand that success attracts parasites, and we have to protect the legacies of those who achieve against people like Marcus. The documentary premiered 2 years later. Elena, Building a Legacy, told Elena's story from childhood through her success with data flow to the formation of our foundation. It covered Marcus's lawsuit and his defeat. Marcus's portion of the film was devastating to him. His lies exposed, his greed revealed, his manipulation shown clearly. He came across exactly as he was, a parasite trying to profit from someone else's achievement. The documentary won awards. More importantly, it inspired people. Applications to the foundation tripled. Donations increased. Elena's story motivated a generation of entrepreneurs to build honestly, to help others, to focus on merit rather than manipulation. I was invited to speak at business schools about protecting intellectual property and defending against frivolous lawsuits. My daughter's ex-boyfriend tried to steal $80 million using nothing but lies. We defeated him because we had evidence, because we documented everything, because we fought back. If you build something valuable, someone will try to take it from you. Be prepared. Students ask the same questions at every talk. How did you stay strong during the lawsuit? Weren't you tempted to settle just to make it go away? How do you deal with people like Marcus? My answers were always the same. You stay strong by knowing the truth and having evidence to prove it. You don't settle when you're right, because settling rewards fraud. You deal with people like Marcus by exposing them thoroughly, publicly, and without mercy. I received letters from people who'd faced similar situations. My ex-spouse is claiming credit for my business. My former partner is suing for money he didn't earn. Your story gave me courage to fight back. Each letter reminded me why defending Elena's legacy had been so important. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the principle that achievement belongs to those who achieve, not those who manipulate. 5 years after Elena's death, I was 62. The foundation was thriving. I'd helped hundreds of entrepreneurs. I preserved my daughter's memory and protected her life's work from a greedy ex-boyfriend who deserved nothing. Marcus occasionally popped up on social media, posting vague complaints about injustice and unfair treatment. People who knew the story would comment, "You mean the injustice of you trying to steal from your ex's estate?" He'd delete the post quickly. I learned from someone Marcus had started a blog claiming to tell his side of the story about Elena. It was full of lies, claiming Elena had stolen his ideas, claiming they'd been business partners, claiming the court had been biased against him. Catherine sent him a cease and desist letter. "Your blog constitutes defamation. Remove it immediately or face another lawsuit." Marcus removed the blog, but continued his bitterness privately. Some people never accept responsibility for their failures. They spend their lives blaming others, playing victim, nursing grievances. I refuse to let Marcus's bitterness poison my life. I focused on positive work, growing a foundation, supporting entrepreneurs, honoring Elena's memory through action rather than just words. The Foundation's 7th anniversary gala was our biggest yet. 300 attendees, including 40 entrepreneurs we'd helped whose companies were now successful. They each shared stories about how our funding had changed their lives. "I was working 3 jobs while developing my app," one woman said. "The Elena Grayson Innovation Fund let me quit those jobs and focus full-time on my dream. Now my app has 2 million users and I employ 20 people. None of that happens without Elena's legacy." Tears streamed down my face listening to these stories. This was what mattered, not the money itself, but what it enabled. Dreams realized, lives changed, potential unleashed. David spoke at the gala too. Elena believed in merit. She believed people should succeed based on their work, not their connections or their ability to manipulate. The foundation embodies that belief. We're proving that supporting genuine talent creates ripples that change the world. After the gala, a young man approached me. Late 20s, nervous energy. "Mr. Grayson, I'm Jonas. I received a grant from the foundation 3 years ago. My company just sold for $12 million. I want to donate $1 million back to the fund." I was stunned. That's incredibly generous. "Elena's legacy gave me my start," Jonas said. "Now I want to be part of giving others their start. It's the right thing to do." This was exactly what I'd hoped for, a self-sustaining cycle where people we help eventually help others. Elena's impact multiplying exponentially. The foundation's assets grew to $60 million between investment returns and donations from successful entrepreneurs. We were helping 300 people per year, creating thousands of jobs, building an ecosystem of innovation and mutual support. Media called it the most successful entrepreneurship fund in the country. Business schools studied our model. Other foundations copied our approach. All because Elena had been brilliant and hardworking enough to succeed spectacularly. And because we defended her legacy against someone who tried to steal it. I thought about that moment at Elena's funeral. Marcus demanding money, violating the sanctity of grief with his greed. If I'd given in, if I'd settled out of weakness or exhaustion, none of this positive work would exist. The $80 million would have been split with a man who contributed nothing, and Elena's legacy would have been corrupted. Fighting Marcus had been the right choice. Not because I enjoyed conflict, but because principles matter, because protecting the truth matters, because ensuring achievement goes to those who achieve matters. 8 years after Elena's death, I received news that Marcus had filed for bankruptcy. His financial situation had deteriorated completely. He owed debts from the lawsuit, from failed business ventures, from poor life choices. Part of me felt sympathy, but mostly I felt nothing. Marcus had made his choices. He pursued greed instead of merit, manipulation instead of hard work, bitterness instead of growth. He'd paid the price for those choices. And while I'd never wish suffering on anyone, I couldn't deny that there was justice in Marcus facing the natural consequences of his character. He's filed for bankruptcy and is requesting the court forgive your fee judgment. Catherine informed me over phone. Will they? Probably. Fraud-related judgments can sometimes survive bankruptcy, but it's complicated. You likely won't see that money. I never expected to. I replied honestly. The victory was never about collecting from Marcus. It was about stopping him from collecting from Elena. A week later, I received another letter from Marcus. This one more desperate than apologetic. Richard, I know you have no reason to help me, but I'm in serious financial trouble. I'm about to lose my apartment. I can't find work because of the criminal conviction. I'm not asking for the 80 million or even a fraction of it, just enough to get back on my feet. Maybe 20,000. Consider charity, not obligation. Please. I showed the letter to David. What do you think? David's response was immediate. Absolutely not. Marcus tried to steal Elena's entire legacy. Now that he's failed, he wants you to voluntarily give him money out of pity? That's manipulative. Elena would hate it. He was right. This was Marcus's final manipulation attempt, playing on guilt and sympathy to get money he'd failed to steal through legal means. I wrote back a single sentence. No. Build your own life, as Elena built hers. Never heard from Marcus again after that. He faded from my life completely, as he should have years earlier. The Elena Grayson Innovation Fund celebrated its 10th anniversary last year. Over the decade, we'd helped 1,000 entrepreneurs. 50 of them had built companies worth over $1 million. 5 had gone public with valuations over $100 million. The combined economic impact of businesses we'd funded was estimated at over $2 billion. 20,000 jobs created. Countless innovations brought to market. Elena's 80 million has generated 25 times its value in economic impact. An economist who studied our work told me, that's extraordinary multiplier effect. Most philanthropic funds struggle to generate even 2-to-1 impact. Elena was extraordinary. I replied simply, we're just channeling her excellence through other people. At that anniversary gala, we announced a new program, the Elena Grayson Integrity Award. $10,000 annually to an entrepreneur who demonstrated exceptional ethical behavior in business. Elena succeeded because she had integrity. I explained to crowd. She never cut corners, never lied, never manipulated. She built her success on merit and honesty. This award celebrates others who do the same. The first recipient was a young man who turned down a lucrative but unethical contract, sacrificing short-term profit for long-term integrity. I couldn't look my employees in the eye if I'd taken that deal, he explained. Some things matter more than money. Elena would have loved that. She'd always believed character mattered more than wealth. I'm 64 years old now, 9 years after Elena's death. The grief has softened but never disappeared. I think about her every day, her laugh, her intelligence, her determination. But I don't think about Marcus anymore. He's irrelevant. A footnote in Elena's story. A cautionary tale about greed and manipulation. Meanwhile, Elena's legacy grows stronger every year. Every entrepreneur we fund, every company we help build, every job created, that's Elena's impact continuing to spread. People ask me if I regret how much time and money the lawsuit cost. My answer is always no. Fighting Marcus was necessary. Protecting Elena's legacy was worth every penny and every difficult moment. You could have settled for a few million and avoided years of stress, someone commented at a recent speaking engagement. Settling would have rewarded fraud. I replied, it would have validated Marcus's lies. It would have told the world that you can steal through manipulation if you're persistent enough. I refused to send that message. But wasn't it exhausting? Didn't you just want it over? Of course I wanted it over. Grief is exhausting enough without adding legal battles. But some things are worth fighting for. Elena's reputation was worth fighting for. The principle that achievement belongs to those who achieve was worth fighting for. Justice was worth fighting for. The audience applauded. Many had faced similar situations. Ex-partners trying to claim credit for their success, relatives demanding money they didn't earn, Parasites emerging whenever someone achieves something valuable. Stand your ground. I told them. Document everything. Get good legal help. Fight back against fraud. Because if you don't, you're not just hurting yourself. You're hurting everyone who achieves honestly by letting manipulators win. That message resonated. I received emails for weeks from people who've been inspired to fight back against frivolous claims. Several won their cases, protected their legacies, exposed liars. Last month, I learned that Marcus had moved across the country, changed his name slightly, Marcus J. Sullivan instead of Marcus Sullivan, and was apparently trying to start over. Someone who knew both of us spotted him and sent me a photo. He looked older, worn down by his choices. I felt a moment of sadness, not for him specifically, but for the life he'd wasted. He could have built his own success honestly. Instead, he'd spent years trying to steal from someone else and ended up with nothing. Do you ever worry he'll try again? David asked when I mentioned the sighting. No, he has no legal standing. The court dismissed his claim with prejudice. If he tries to resurface, we crush him again. But I don't think he will. I think he finally understands he lost. Today marks 10 years since I stood beside Elena's casket and heard Marcus demand money. 10 years since he tried to corrupt my grief with his greed. 10 years since I made the decision to fight rather than surrender. Those 10 years have been filled with purpose. Building the foundation, supporting entrepreneurs, protecting Elena's legacy, proving that integrity triumphs over manipulation when good people refuse to back down. The Elena Grayson Innovation Fund now has $80 million in assets, exactly the amount Marcus tried to steal. It's poetic, really. The money he won has grown and multiplied through honest investment and generous donations. It's creating enormous positive impact. And Marcus has none of it. I visit Elena's grave less frequently now. Not because I miss her less, but because I feel her presence in the work we do every day. Every entrepreneur we fund, every success we celebrate, every ethical choice we reward. That's Elena's spirit continuing to influence the world. Dad, you okay? David asked last week when he caught me staring at Elena's photo in my office. Yeah, I replied honestly. Just thinking about how proud she'd be of what we built, how much good has come from her success. She'd be proud of you for fighting Marcus, David said. A lot of people would have given up or given in. You didn't. You protected her legacy like a warrior. I smiled at that description. I'd never thought of myself as a warrior, just a father who refused to let his daughter's achievements be stolen by someone who contributed nothing. At my daughter's funeral, her ex came to me demanding the $80 million she left me. He claimed he deserved it, that he'd earned it, that Elena owed him. But the truth was simpler. Marcus deserved nothing. He contributed nothing to Elena's success except obstacles she'd overcome. He'd earned nothing except the contempt of everyone who knew the real story. I didn't give him a penny. I fought his lies with truth. I defended Elena's legacy with evidence and determination. And I won. Not just a legal battle, but the larger war against greed and manipulation. That $80 million has now helped 1,000 people build honest success. It's created businesses worth billions. It's generated opportunity for people who, like Elena, had talent but needed support. Marcus tried to steal that potential. He tried to take money that should have gone to deserving entrepreneurs and pocket it for himself based on lies. He failed. Justice prevailed. And Elena's legacy, built on merit, integrity, and honest achievement, continues to grow and inspire. People sometimes ask if I've forgiven Marcus. The answer is complicated. I don't carry anger toward him anymore. That would only poison my own life. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting what he tried to do or pretending it wasn't harmful. Marcus tried to steal my daughter's legacy at her funeral. He tried to profit from her death through fraud. He tried to rewrite history, to cast himself as a victim rather than a parasite. I stopped him, completely, and in doing so, I protected not just Elena's memory, but the principle that achievement belongs to those who achieve. That's what matters. Not Marcus's failure, but Elena's continuing success through the foundation. Not the lawsuit we won, but the 1,000 entrepreneurs we've helped. At my daughter's funeral, her ex demanded the $80 million she left me. 10 years later, that money has multiplied its impact 25 times over. It's building a better world, one honest entrepreneur at a time. And Marcus? He's nowhere. He's nothing. He's forgotten. Just like Elena always knew he should be. If this story resonated with you, please hit subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had a fight to protect a loved one's legacy? How did you handle someone trying to profit from grief? What would you have done in my situation? I'd love to hear your experiences and perspectives. Remember, some battles are worth fighting. Documentation is protection, and integrity always triumphs over manipulation when good people stand firm. Thanks for reading, and never let parasites steal what honest people built. Fight for justice, fight for truth, and fight for the legacy of those who can no longer fight for themselves.